welcome back to my channel. My name is Emma. If you guys haven't subscribed, it would help me a lot if you guys did. Also, go ahead and click the notifications bell so you can be notified every time I post a new video. So I just kind of want to get started into the video. So today I wanted to start a new series on my channel that has to do with murder and missing person cases. But I want these to be specific to the area that I live. I live in the high desert, just because the high desert is such a crazy, mysterious place, you know. There's always the high desert is known for body dumping, which means basically that people just come up here to bury bodies or to dump bodies. There's been many cases where, you know, bodies are found or bones are found, and I just find it really interesting how an area where I live, they find all these crazy shit, you know, all this crazy things and everything like that. And so as I was doing research to talk about a case that I came across, I was looking on the San Bernardino County cold cases on their databases online. I came across a woman named Jodi Brewer. The cold case had said that her remains were found off the 15th River, which is close to me, in the desert. So I was really intrigued because, you know, it was only her torso that was found and it was wrapped in plastic. And so I started doing research on her, and I found out that she was killed by a serial killer named Neal Falls. I've never even heard of him. This is such an old case. So Neal Falls was killed in 2015 in July. He answered a listing by Heather, who was a sex worker. So he answered her ad that she put on a site called Backpage. And when he showed up to her residence and she opened the door, he already had a gun pointing at her, and he forced his way in, started to strangle her, and Heather, being scared and frantic, didn't know what was going on. She thought she was just doing her job. So she was really scared. She ended up looking for the nearest weapon next to her. She seen a rake. She picked up the rake and was gonna hit him with it, and he ends up hitting his gun down to grab the rake from her. And when he does that, Heather grabs the gun and ends up shooting him. So when this happens, she calls the police, tells them, you know, what had just happened, her encounter with this man. And they found some shocking things about him. They looked into his car, his van. They found more than 100 of subway bags in there. So, and they found a lot of murder weapons. They found an axe, sledgehammers, garden scissors, I believe. They found so many items, and they found a big container that can hold a woman's body, they said. And you know, they had said, you know, obviously he had went there with bad intentions to possibly kill this woman. And they found, you know, a duffel bag with the same kind of clothes, just white t-shirts, jeans, and a Bible in there. So they had brought Heather in to question her, you know, see the story. When they seen that this was just self-defense, because they obviously knew he had bad intentions with her, she ended up not being charged for the murder. They ended up running his DNA through databases and found that he could be possibly linked to other cases, one of them being Jodi Brewer. As I was researching, Jodi Brewer is the reason why I found Neal Falls. Jodi Brewer was found off Interstate Highway the Interstate 15, really close to where I live. Her torso was found wrapped in plastic and just a little tattoo on the body. Now, Jodi Brewer, let me just give you her whole backstory and how she went missing. So on August 14th, Jodi woke up. She was living with her mother. She told her mother she was leaving for the day, and she told her mother the last thing before she said was, you know, I love you, you know, have a good day. And her mom was like, I love you too. And she had just dyed her hair blonde. Her mom says she looked radiant. She was so beautiful. She ends up, Jodi is a prostitute. Ever since she was 17, she started selling her body just because she wasn't the type to, you know, work a 9 to 5, $5.50 an hour, you know, job. She liked to make fast money, which, you know, her mother didn't approve of. Her mother had actually kicked her out when she was 17, but, you know, took her back in as she got older. Her mother still loved her. She wasn't just gonna let her daughter, you know, be on the street. So, on August 14th of 2003, Jodi was with her boyfriend and ended up, her boyfriend ended up dropping her off at some apartments. So when he dropped her off at the apartments, because her boyfriend was kind of like, her boyfriend was her pimp as well. So he would go and drop her off at these places so they can make money. You know, her mom said that if she needed money for rent, to make rent, that's why she would go to do, you know, prostitution and to pay for her white pickup truck, I believe. And so she wouldn't be late on the bill on her car payment. So her boyfriend had dropped her off at apartments, and when he came back, she wasn't there anymore. And so when he came back to pick her up several hours later, she wasn't waiting, she wasn't there anymore. Witnesses say that they seen her get into a white car. They didn't know who was driving, nothing like that at all. So that day, when Pamela Brewer, Jodi Brewer's mother, found that, you know, she ended up going missing, she made a report on her. And unfortunately, on August 29th in California, there was a news broadcast that there had been a torso found with a tattoo of an M on the body. Jodi had multiple tattoos, some of the main ones being a hummingbird on her left breast and a M tattooed on her backside. And so her mother ended up calling the coroner's office and saying, you know, does this girl have braces? And because Jodi had braces. And so the coroner was like, we don't know. All we found was a torso. We didn't find, you know, a head or anything. And Jodi asked, you know, is there this tattoo, you know, and unfortunately, you know, this was her daughter. She had found her daughter. her mother had even said, you know, it was a blessing that she got those tattoos so we could be able to identify her. She was just happy. She was just happy that she found her daughter, but she was still really hurt that her daughter had died. So a couple of years would go by before, you know, they would link Neal Falls to this crime. It would be until 2015, until he died, for them to, you know, solve this that happened in 2003. So he had 4 victims that they could officially say, well, 3 official ones that they could say, and the 4th one was just like an assumed, still considered a missing persons case. So he had 3 victims. Jodi Brewer being the first one, and then the next one would be Lindsay Marie Harris, which I will get into. Lindsay Marie Harris was only 21 years old when her life was fit to end. On May, let's see, which one is it? On May 4th, 2005, Lindsay's car was found abandoned on the side of the road with all her information and stuff still in there. Her credit cards were unused. There was nothing like to be like it was messed with. It was a rental car as well. A little backstory on Lindsay was she worked as a prostitute or escort, whatever you want to call it. She was arrested 5 times in Vegas for prostitution. Her mother and father had put out a missing persons report on her. Unfortunately, when her parents came back home from a funeral, they ended up hearing from Illinois State Police that their daughter was found, or what they think to be of her daughter, just because of her abandoned car that they found off the Interstate 55 near Springfield, Illinois. They assumed it was her body. It was 2 children that were walking past a grassy area, and they ended up discovering 2 legs. When the police were informed, they didn't know whether this was Lindsay's body. Like, a slight tattoo can be seen, but they couldn't make it out what it was. They waited 3 years for DNA results just to confirm these were Lindsay's legs, not eggs. Just to confirm that these were Lindsay's legs that they had found. They had to extract DNA from both legs, and then send it to the FBI. By the time the FBI received it, the FBI had to do a DNA test with the DNA that was found on Lindsay's toothbrush and things like that. And when they did, it was confirmed to be Lindsay's body. Lindsay, they hadn't filed the missing report till May 4th on her. And that's only because they found the abandoned rental car, which the rental car, they had been looking for it. Because, you know, rental cars, you only have them for a brief amount of time. You don't have them for any longer. So when the Illinois State Police went to go inform her parents that it was her body, her uncle had just came back from her uncle's funeral, and they said that it was a gift from their uncle that they had even found her. And like I said, not until 2015 these cases would become solved. unfortunately not until Neal Falls was killed. So the next victim of Neal Falls, unfortunately, was Misty Marie Sands. I believe that's how you say her last name. Also, I'll try to put a picture of the victims in this. That's my little cousin. I locked him out. He's wild. So, for Misty, there's not as much information on her, how she went missing. I tried to look it up. They just know that 2 bikers found her body just like the other girls. Parts of her body were wrapped in plastic and blue, I think blue tape it said, and they found it in somewhere in Vegas. Just a side note as well, because I forgot to mention this earlier, Neal Falls was living in Henderson, Vegas at this point, when all these prostitutes went missing. Even Vegas police had said that an unusual amount of prostitutes and hookers went missing during this time. Like too large of an amount, it was said, went missing or just disappeared. So during the time of all these incidents, Jesse Foster would later be said to be a 4th victim of Neal Falls. Just they never found a body on her. Just the time that she went missing was during this time. Was during 2005. She had flown from Canada to Florida with one of her friends, and from Florida they ended up going to Vegas, where she said she would stay, and a year later she ended up coming back to Vegas and becoming a prostitute there. But she ended up disappearing, and she fits the, you know, the kind of girls that Neal Falls was into. And now I just want to get into Neal Falls and who exactly was Neal Falls. So Neal Falls, when he was in Henderson, Nevada, was actually working for the Hoover Dam. His co-workers said he was really weird, and you know they weren't really surprised that he was a serial killer. He always made remarks talking about prostitutes, and they even said, like, he talks about prostitutes so much, like, I'm surprised that I wouldn't be surprised if he's killed some, you know. They said he was just a weirdo. Like, he would come in hours before his shift and just hang out in this deserted part of the Hoover Dam. And, you know, they said that he carried around $10,000 in a paper bag. He said just in case he needs to leave really fast. And, you know, he was always getting write-ups at work for setting animals on fire and stuff like that. I'm surprised, you know, like, they didn't just fire him. I mean, they said that it ultimately led up to him being fired. And by the time that he was fired, he ended up just, after that, sleeping off his car. And that's when he would just travel the world, not travel the world, but travel America. And that's why he's linked to other murders in 9 other states. The 4 girls are just in, well, they're working with Nevada, and then Illinois is where one of the girls was found. He ultimately ended up in Springfield, Illinois, where he had attempted to kill a prostitute and she ended up shooting him, which was how they got his DNA and ran it through their databases. She ended up not being charged with the murder because they said it was self-defense because he was trying to kill her. He automatically just went in there into her house, strangling her. You know, he found all these girls on online websites for prostitution. It was called Backpage. There was also in his pocket they found a note of other girls' numbers and ages, and so it was their numbers and ages, and it looked like they were going to be, you know, potential victims as well. And I just hope, you guys really kind of like think about that. Like, he was really taking these girls, their information off online and stuff like that. Like, you just really have to be careful from like what you put out there on the internet. And, you know, like, if you give out too much information, like, you never know which weirdo is watching you, or which somebody that's just not right in the head wants to stalk you, or I don't know, some weird things, you know. People are too much these days. With that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this case that I talked to you guys about. I hope you guys found it as interesting as I did. I've never even heard of Neal Falls until today when I was looking him up, and the 4 girls he's killed. May they rest in peace. You know, it's just really sad to see like all these young girls and their lives being taken away so early. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you guys have a good day. See you in the next one.